Good afternoon again, and welcome to all of you I have with me, and thank you guys for coming. As I mentioned, Alyssa and Erica will be our presenters today, so when I turn the reins over to them, if you girls wouldn't mind just quickly introducing yourselves and kind of just explaining how long you've been with Branson and what age you are, what grade you're in, those things would be great. But before we get there, I do just want to chat quick about your extra credit opportunity. We just keep a running tab as teachers, so I will put all of you in our spreadsheet as being here presenting or attending, and then just email the teacher that you want the extra credit in and let them know you attended today's mentor session, you'd like extra credit in their class, and they'll mark it off the spreadsheet. So it's kind of how we keep track of it. And I'll announce it again at the end if we have any other joining us throughout the session today. But I forgot last time, so I just wanted to make sure I took the time to describe that or to walk you through how that goes. Also, throughout, although our presenters are Erica and Alyssa, when you type into the questions box, it still just comes to me. I'm Mrs. Nedved, by the way. I don't think I even introduced myself. So I'm Mrs. Nedved, high school math teacher here at Branson. And so when you type something in the questions box, it comes to me. So if you have a question for one of the girls throughout the presentation, just type in the questions box and I'll relay it to them. Or I'm always up for unmuting anyone. Just use that little hand raise feature and I'll go in and unmute you. Hey, Mariah, no problem, welcome. And Aisha, I see I have two more joining us. And a question here, does the extra credit expire ever? To be honest with you, that's not a conversation we've ever had as teachers. We have a team meeting of high school teachers tomorrow, so I will clarify that. As far as I know, I want to say no. I don't see a reason for it to expire, but other teachers might have a little bit different take on that. So I will clarify. Let's just go with no for now, and if that answer changes, I'll email you all and let you know the end date for that. Great question. Any other questions, logistics, anything before we go ahead and jump in and turn it over to our two presenters today? Anything else you guys want to go over? Also, if you are new to the mentor session, the sessions usually start with a slideshow. We can see Alyssa's got hers pulled up already. And then at the end, we open up for questions that you can ask. Feel free to ask throughout, but we'll probably wait till the end to go over them. And honestly, I think sometimes the most valuable information from these sessions comes from those questions. So please, please, please don't hesitate to ask anything of these students. If they're presenting, that means that they've shown to be really successful here with us at Branson, or they've got whatever the topic is down. And so they're kind of our experts. So ask away. One last question, is there recording for this? Yes, I am recording it. What I'll do is I'll post it the same place that I post for all the teachers to keep track of extra credit. And so if you want a recording, either ask myself. If you want to shoot me an email, give me a call, or you're welcome to ask your homeroom teacher and they'll have access to it after I get it all uploaded as well. Great question. Any last questions before we turn the reins over? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. If you girls, again, Alyssa and Erica, if you wouldn't mind starting by introducing yourself and then take it away. Thanks again.
All right. Hello, that voice. My name is Alyssa Ford. I like pizza, I use Comic Sans ironically, and I probably joke around too much. Take note of how terribly I cut out this photo so that way you couldn't see my messy room. You're welcome. I am in 11th grade, and I've been with Branson for almost 10 years, actually, and that's insane for me to think about, but it's just kind of my life.
I'm Erica, and I'm in 11th grade, and I've only been with Branson for like a year or so. And yeah, that's basically it.
Here we are to share our wisdom and try to help you not have a panic attack while testing. Meanwhile, I'm having a panic attack while trying to do this presentation, so here we go. If you're like me, then you hear the word test and start contemplating how bad life as a homeless runaway would be. You almost even convince yourself that it's not such a bad idea. and then you realize it's actually a terrible idea because then you'd have no plan on how to survive, or you're that person who watches too much The Walking Dead and you're sure you'd be fine. I'm sorry, but no. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that tests are intimidating and overwhelming and they're too much, they're scary. What? What do you want? I'm in the middle of presenting here. I'm making them more anxious? Oh, okay. Sorry. My point is that it isn't something we usually like, and so when somebody knows they're going to have to do it, they kind of just spend a lot of time doing this. Yeah, it's usually accompanied by a lot of groaning. But fear not, I am here. I do these things too, and I'm not actually that qualified to help you, but I'm going to try. Okay, jokes aside, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'll be more serious now. Maybe.
So it's really important if you do practice tests because they show how your actual test will look like and how it will be formatted. And it will show what kind of questions are on the test and how to answer and be prepared for certain questions. And it shows how long your test might be, so you can manage your time a little better, and it will help reduce your anxiety. Yeah. Moving on.
Notes, notes, notes. Hey, don't roll your eyes in that tone with me. I know, you hear this all the time, and let's be honest, we don't always take notes because it makes our hands cramp and other excuses. I mean, if you're someone who actually takes notes regularly, then, well, good job, I guess. You know what? Never mind. My pride is hurt. Stop being more efficient than I am. I'm kidding. I'm half serious. Actually, it does help a tremendous amount to take notes, not only for lessons and your usual quizzes, but especially for big tests. When writing down what you'll need for later on while taking that test, the action of being focused on what you're writing is actually giving your brain a chance to really absorb the information. I don't know how to talk. That also helps later on down the road. When you read a question on your test and keywords in it usually trigger your brain to remember writing some of them down. And in most cases, you can remember all or most of the note you wrote down and suddenly, bam, instant answer. Go write it down and be 100% confident in it.
So another key thing I learned to help reduce your anxiety is if you think positive thoughts, because the things you think can and will influence how you do on the test. So if you go in thinking you are going to fail, you won't probably get as good of a score because you already defeated yourself. So just visualize yourself doing well on the test and tell yourself you're going to do well on the test and actually believe it. So yeah.
Get started. By the way, you definitely shouldn't procrastinate. Believe me, I am someone who puts the pro in procrastination, and I can tell you right now that waiting to prepare for this is a really bad idea. If you put off studying and note-taking until the very last minute, and if you're like me, you still put it off till the last second, and try to throw all of that information into your head all at once the night before the big day, you won't remember much when you get there, and then it's just game over. Get to studying early, weeks early. Really, I mean it. I know it doesn't sound like what you'd normally do, and usually neither would I, but in this situation, you really will do better if you start preparing as soon as you possibly can. The only reason I'm so persistent with this part is because it helps you keep a decent sleep schedule, and you still learn what you need to, all while reducing all of that stress you'd usually end up with while cramming.
So after all the studying and stuff for your test, it's important to take little brain breaks. Brain breaks help the brain recollect information you just learned. And as we know from being on an online school, sitting inside for a few hours on a computer can't be good. So during your brain breaks, I suggest, what works for me is not checking your phone, social medias, or watching TV, but get up and do something. For example, go for a quick 10-minute walk. Or if you can't go for a walk, get up and stretch. Physical activity boosts your energy and helps you concentrate, betters your mood, and improves your academic achievements. And also keep your brain breaks short and timely, and take note of when you start to feel a little drowsy or tired during the day. And then in those times, you can make a quick little energizer for those. Yeah.
Clean work environment. If you're sitting in a pile of dirty clothes and wrappers and crumbs, it's not going to help you stay focused while studying. Don't even try to lie to me. You and I both know that your room is exactly what I just described, unless it's not. In that case, again, please stop being more efficient than me. We talked about this. Clean up, really now. What kind of a parent are you, dear Sims, that you force to mop up floors and take out the trash all the time if you aren't even setting the example? There's some kind of saying, a cluttered space leads to a cluttered mind. I don't know why they who say this are suddenly British and English and proper. I just kind of assume that somebody who says cluttered often is really posh, but never mind. If you think about it, it's very true. How are you supposed to focus when there's a bunch of unwashed coffee cups from those all-nighters that we're going to talk about? Or those old crumpled up papers from failed notes, the kinds where you missed one letter using pen and you're like, well, not that one. Yeah, those. It's distracting for your eyes, if not so much your mind. Clean it up. Throw away all the junk and neatly stack anything else, or just put it into one single pile. And for the love of Pete, please wash the old coffee bowls and coffee cups. I can't talk. And just for the fun of it, clean the smudges off your screen that I know you're trying to ignore as we speak. I speak and you watch. Distractions. They exist everywhere. Some of them you can't control, like pesky siblings. But you can take care of a lot of them. You aren't going to like this, but I'm going to say it. You're going to have to shut off your phone. I know, I hate it just as much as you do, but you'll focus best when there aren't any notifications dinging or lighting up the screen like some sort of torture method trying to keep you away from studying. I'm not saying that you can't use your phone at all just before the test. It should just be off while you're doing all that note-taking and book reading. Good old book reading. This doesn't just go for your phone. Tablets, laptops, anything at all that gives you contact to the outside world should be off. Pretend you are a mighty warrior testing your willpower and strength against temptation.
Okay, another key to having less anxiety is to actually motivate yourself to do the practice test and just study, I guess. And for me, I struggle with motivating myself to do any sort of work, whether that's getting up in the morning to work out or doing chores or even just schoolwork in general. I'm so bad at it. But a few tips that saved me was when preparing for a test, I make sure I work in a clean environment and to focus on just studying. And then like what was said before, eliminating distractions that won't motivate you, because there actually is an off button on your phone, believe it or not. And even though you may not want to put in the time studying, think about how much stress you won't be feeling since you'll be prepared for it.
And now, battle strategy. Wait, I meant studying strategies. Nailed it. Studying tactics. Not only should you take notes, but it is also a good idea to break down what you're taking notes of after you make them. Okay, yeah, that wasn't a very good explanation. What I mean is, after taking your extensive notes, you should make a bullet point list. Put somewhere between 5 to 10 main facts that cover the most important aspects about the original story that will remind you of the whole thing. Just like a book, your quick bullet point notes will be about the beginning, middle, and end of your original notes, making it so that way when you see a word on the test that reminds you of a fact that you wrote in those bullet points, your mind can easily go to a summary of the whole story. Disclaimer, this is a very good note-taking tactic for some people, however, it is not for everyone, so do what is best for you. Please. Last but not least, a brief discussion about all-nighters. Don't. Just kidding, that's not the end. All-nighters aren't not a good idea. In fact, they're probably the worst idea. For one, you'll start getting all the facts and the subjects you're studying mixed up in your head and end up with an answer like, if A equals the Revolutionary War and a verb is also X, the answer is penguins. And you might as well have never wasted your night and actually gotten some sleep. Number two, the next day you'll be functioning on pretty much zero sleep, which causes the same problems. People, do you see what I'm talking about here? You can't keep your facts and equations straight, and that makes all of it for nothing. And just like when you take a nap and you feel like death because you didn't get a good amount of sleep, it's like the same thing but all day, and that's just not good. Don't do that to yourself. You should just stick with the start studying weeks early plan. If you don't feel prepared the night before a test and really think you need to try and study more, then go to bed early. That way, if you have a hard time falling asleep, from nerves, you still get a good amount of rest, and then wake up earlier. Then take that time in the morning to look over your notes one last time before your test.
And then study smarter, not harder. Break your study into chunks. Your ability to study diminishes after 25 to 30 minutes, so take breaks at these times to restore your effectiveness. And then create a dedicated study area. The context provided by your environment largely will determine your behavior, so design your study area to encourage, actual studying. And study actively. Study by quizzing yourself rather than just reading the highlighted parts. And take smart notes. Get the key points and don't try to rewrite word for word. And summarize or teach what you learned. It'll help you understand better if you do this because you can't just gloss over everything. And then use that SQ3R method, the survey, question, read, recite, review. That is really helpful. And then use mnemonics to study facts. Mnemonics are something that helps you remember. Using acronyms, coin sayings, or picture associations can help you remember the material easier.
All right, I guess question time, because that's the end of our presentation.
Awesome. Thank you both girls. That was a wonderful presentation. I think full of some great information. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them out in the questions box. Or if you'd rather just be unmuted, raise your hand and that will be my cue to unmute you. Again, your questions come just to me and then I relay them. All right, Sadie, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Go ahead.
My question is, a lot of it's about, your information was about preparing for the test, which is good. But what do you do when everything's going fine, but then you start getting questions on a test that you're not prepared for, that you don't know the answers to, and that's what makes you anxious? Any advice about that?
I can actually answer that because there have been so many times where how do I put this? I had too many questions left for the amount of minutes left in the test time. And I remember this happened to me once. This is a funny story, actually. And I was doing NWEA testing out of state. And I was freaking out because I had too many questions left and there was 5 minutes and I was trying to cram 20 minutes into 20 questions in 5 minutes. Excuse me, I still can't talk. And the teacher who was proctoring ran over because he noticed that I was having an actual panic attack, and he's looking over my situation and he goes, when in doubt, choose C. For all the rest of them, you're bound to get one right. And I don't think this is the best, but because a teacher told me this, it's always stuck with me. What you need to do is just take a few breaths, recollect yourself, do the best you can, and when you're running out of time, I would actually do this thing. We use one consecutive answer because you are bound to get at least one of those right. That's just my personal use.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I do want to add to that very quickly. That's an okay tactic. If you don't have time to answer. Right. But the only thing I want to add to that is just since we are switching in Colorado from taking the ACT as juniors to now taking the SAT, for the ACT, that would apply because you don't get counted against you for wrong answers. But now that we're taking the SAT, you actually don't want to do that because you do get counted against you. There's negative points for wrong answers. So just keep that in your mind when we hit the SAT as juniors. it's better to leave it blank than to guess. But yes, otherwise, great comment. A comment from
Right, it's better.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, when you know what test you're going into, the specific, can't think of the word that I'm looking for, but the specifics of it, if it's better to not answer, like for the SAT in particular, better to have somebody who's knowledgeable in that tell you just do it as per what type of test it is.
Definitely. Awesome. Comment from one of the students says, I really like the tips and the presentation and nice enthusiasm. Totally agreed. I second that. Another question. How do you quiz yourself?
Good tactics for quizzing yourself, I would say, would be with flashcards and, you know, just reviewing the material. And like we said, practice tests are very, very good because they'll pretty much show you exactly what you're getting yourself into if you can find any for what your test is going to be about. There's a lot of ways. You can definitely come up with just about anything.
And one cool thing, and I don't have this off the top of my head, but I know Mrs. Fetty uses it, and I can find it if you're interested. There are now online flashcards, so those would be really easy to do if you have like, online notes where you can literally just copy and paste, like, okay, if you're working on vocab or you're working on, just like facts, remembering years, that kind of thing. Online flashcards are also like super easy now. Okay, Ariana has her hand up. Ariana, I have unmuted you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've been in Branson for 8 years this year, and starting last year, I started dancing competitively, which takes about 8 to 10 hours a week of my time. And I know this is for like studying tips for tests and stuff, but I was wondering if you guys had any tips on how to manage schoolwork within those time frames, because it's Thursday, half the day Thursday and half the day Wednesday. So I was wondering if you guys had any tips on time management for that.
I'm probably not the most qualified to answer this, but
I can answer it. Okay, so I understand like your situation because I play lacrosse, so I'm not like always at home, or I always have other plans. But I suggest like, just so all your work isn't like so overwhelming, to just like kind of like we said, is break it up. So like not like, don't do everything one day because that can get super overwhelming, but like do like a subject this day, like before you go to dance, and then come home. And if it's late, I understand if you don't feel like doing any work, but like it helps if you just like do it anyways. So like just before and after you go to dance or whatever.
And I would definitely, I do this when I'm having problem managing my time, is make an actual schedule. Write out what you need to do, write out the time that you have to do it, and then make sure you set aside some time to work on anything that you miss.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a couple more questions have come in. A great job. And I liked how you explained things. How do you take notes in CLO, C-L-O? Allison, I don't know what CLO is. Do you guys know what CLO is?
Compass Learning Odyssey.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Okay, thank you. I don't use that as a teacher, so I've never seen the acronym, but great. Okay, so how do you take notes in Compass?
What I personally do is when you're doing the lesson and they get to the video part where they're talking, there is a little thing beside the play, pause, skip forward, skip backward button that is a T, and if you hover over that with your cursor, it says transcript, and I always open that up, and it opens up to a PFD file, I think is how you say it, and I print that and use highlighters or colored pens to color code, circling certain parts that are the important information, and I use that and then write down other things that I feel are very important that don't show up in the transcript, and that really helps me. I save those in my binder.
Awesome. Erica, anything to add?
No, I didn't know what that was either, so.
Well, cool. Sounds like maybe that was something new then for a few of you. Wonderful. Another question. When studying, is it okay to listen to music?
I almost put that in there. I had that last year. I think that you should test it out when you don't have something to lose and see if, listening to music that you're very familiar with, so that way the lyrics kind of wash over you and you don't feel like you have to listen and learn them. see if that works for you, see if it doesn't take away. For me personally, it does help me focus better. So that's just a personal, per person thing, and you need to see how it works for you.
Erica, anything to add?
I think for me personally, listening to music helps me because I don't like just like doing my schoolwork in complete silence. But like she said, it's up to the person to see what works best for them.
Yeah, and one thing, this is just, I read it somewhere, and I've never done it, tested it, so I don't know if it's accurate, but one thing I read is if you listen to the same music when you're studying as when you take the test, you're more likely to remember things because your brain's going to associate that song with the last time you heard it or something to that effect. So it might be something worth trying out. I'm with you. I do the exact same thing. I have music playing all the time in the background if I'm not in a DI, just because I don't like the quiet house. But yeah, I think that's a great answer. Kind of figure out what works for you. Wonderful. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I will just reiterate quickly. You are eligible for extra credit in the class of your choice. So I'll make a list of everyone here. Presenters, you guys are definitely eligible as well. And then just email the teacher of the class you want the extra credit in and let them know you're using it. I will ask tomorrow during our team meeting if teachers would like that to expire at a certain time, but for now we'll say no. Couple other comments came in. Ariana, I read something about that with aromatherapy. If you use the same essential oils when studying and taking tests, it helps. Yeah, I've read that too. So it's like the same sounds, the same smells, anything that's repeated, like in the same environment even, you're more likely to remember what you read. Awesome. And then another student, Jaden H., to add to that, I personally like complete silence because of how easy I get distracted, especially when I like the noise. When I like the noise, like music. I know exactly what you mean, Jaden. My roommates in college were that way. They would both say, like, how can you listen to music? I get so distracted by the lyrics. I just, I start thinking about them. And for some reason, it doesn't affect me. Like, I can listen to a song 15 times and not even tell you what it's about because that's how little interest I have in the lyrics. I just like the song. So if you do have that issue with lyrics, you may want to try something that's like lyricless. There is a Pandora station called, I think it's called Black Violin, but it takes kind of popular songs, but they're all without lyrics. They're all just instrumental. So something like that, or even like, your classical music would also be another option.
Right.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add in on this. I heard this from a friend who's a big gamer. I'm big in gaming too, and he said that he listens to soundtracks from games when he's studying or he wants to focus because that kind of music is literally made to help you focus while you're in a battle in a game and stuff like that. So that's just a little tip.
That's a great topic.
I would definitely recommend Pacific Rim soundtrack. Just saying.
Yeah, any like those suggestions are always great. And it's just going to be, like I said, finding what works for you. I like country music, and I can listen to it with lyrics, and I can get a ton of work done because I don't get distracted by it personally. Other things I certainly do, but that's completely what works for you. Stephanie, I can't remember exactly what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But if you shoot me an email to remind me, I will check in on. I think it's called Black Violin, but one of my roommates showed it to me, and it's all just like popular music but instrumental, so you don't have the lyrics to get distracted by. Allison, me too. I listen to holiday music starting like very soon. John Wick playlist. I mean, if that works for you, Trey, that's awesome. Okay, great. Thank you to everyone for coming. Definitely a big, huge thank you to Alyssa and Erica for presenting today. You guys did a wonderful job. I think it's so great to kind of get some fresh advice and hear from our peers. Anyone in attendance, if you have suggestions of what you'd like to see in the future for topics, we will continue this monthly. So shoot me an email or in the questions box if you'd like to present. If you have a topic you think you would be a good presenter on, definitely reach out to me. We're at that point where I'm starting to look for new presenters. So again, thank you to all of you coming. It was wonderful. Have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you all next month when we hit our fourth session. And again, a big thank you to Alyssa and Erica. Bye, everyone.